Have you ever wondered what happens when a seemingly perfect family life takes a dark turn? For 16-year-old Chike, that moment came when his parents left for work. Before we start the story, I'd like to know what city you're watching from. Tell me in the comments and I'll leave a heart for you. The aroma of jollof rice and plantains filled the cramped two-bedroom apartment in Ikeja, Lagos. 13-year-old Chike laughed as his mother, Ngozi, playfully swatted his hand away from the pot. "Wait small, this boy," she scolded, but her eyes sparkled with joy. "Your father will be home soon." Those were the golden days. Emeka, Chike's father, worked as a mid-level bank manager, coming home every evening with stories from the office. The family would gather around their small dining table, sharing meals and dreams under the flickering light of their old ceiling fan. Weekends meant trips to Takwe Bay Beach, where Chike built sandcastles while his parents held hands like teenagers. Emeka taught him chess on their one wooden board, each move a lesson in strategy and patience. Ngozi insisted he learn to cook. "A man who can feed himself is never helpless," she'd say, guiding his small hands as they kneaded dough for meat pies. But destiny had different plans. 3 years later, the gleaming BMW pulled to a stop outside the mansion in Banana Island, Lagos's most exclusive neighborhood. Chike, now 16 years old, stepped out onto marble floors that reflected his hollow expression. The house sprawled before him like a monument to success and loneliness. Emeka's tech startup had exploded overnight. International investors, government contracts, Forbes recognition. The money flowed like the Niger River during flood season. But wealth came with a price tag no one had calculated. "We're building something bigger than ourselves," Emeka had explained during one of his rare appearances at home. "This sacrifice is temporary, son. You'll understand when you're older." Chike understood, all right. He understood that success could turn parents into strangers. The mansion felt like a beautiful prison. His parents were always somewhere else, Dubai, London, Abuja, chasing the next deal, the next milestone. When they were home, exhaustion clung to them like expensive cologne. Conversations became bullet points. Hugs became handshakes. At Lagos Business School, Chike felt like an imposter among the trust fund kids who spoke of family vacations in Switzerland while he couldn't remember the last time his family had dinner together. This was the dark turn that would change everything, the moment when parental absence created a vulnerability that someone with bad intentions would soon exploit. Every afternoon, Chike found himself on the mansion's front steps, watching life move beyond their golden gates. Street hawkers called out their wares, children chased footballs down the tree-lined streets, and couples walked hand in hand, all the life that money had somehow bought him out of. That's when she appeared. Mrs. Edeora Okafor stepped out of her sleek Mercedes, designer handbag glinting in the Lagos sun. Mid-50s, elegant, with the kind of poise that commanded attention. She lived 3 houses down in an equally impressive mansion, but unlike Chike's parents, she seemed to have all the time in the world. "You look like someone who's lost something precious," she said that first afternoon, her voice carrying the smooth confidence of old money. Chike looked up, startled. "Just thinking about." The question hung in the air. Something about her presence, the way she waited patiently for his answer, the genuine concern in her eyes, made him want to spill everything. "My parents," he found himself saying. "They are never here anymore. This house, it's beautiful but empty." Adeora's expression softened. "Loneliness is a thief, isn't it? Steals everything good when you're not looking." For the first time in months, someone understood. What Chike didn't realize was that predators are experts at recognizing vulnerability. They know exactly what lonely young people need to hear. What started as afternoon conversations became elaborate outings. Edeora introduced Chike to Lagos's hidden treasures, exclusive art galleries in Victoria Island, private chef experiences in Ikoyi, helicopter rides over the lagoon. "Your parents work so hard to give you this life," she'd say, sliding another expensive watch onto his wrist. The least we can do is enjoy it. She made him feel sophisticated, valued, important. When she spoke, she looked directly into his eyes as if his words mattered more than anything in the world. She remembered every detail he shared, his dreams of becoming a filmmaker, his favorite foods, even his childhood fears. At 16 years old, Chuck had never experienced such focused attention from anyone, especially not a woman of such elegance and refinement. "You're becoming quite the young man," she purred one evening as they shared wine on a terrace overlooking the lagoon. The city lights twinkled below them like fallen stars. "So mature for your age. So attractive." The wine made everything seem softer, warmer. When she leaned closer, when her fingers traced along his jaw, when she whispered that he was special, it felt like coming home. That night, lines blurred beyond recognition. What Chuck thought was connection was actually manipulation. What felt like love was predation disguised as affection. For 3 months, Chuck lived in two worlds. By day, he was the lonely rich kid going through the motions at school. By night, he was involved in a relationship that should never have existed, a vulnerable young man being exploited by an older woman who understood exactly how to manipulate his loneliness. Edeora showered him with attention that went far beyond gifts. She made him feel wanted, desired, important. In her presence, the emptiness left by his absent parents seemed to fill with something intoxicating. "This is our special connection," she would whisper during their intimate encounters. "Some people wouldn't understand what we have." Chuck didn't question it. At 16, he thought he was a man making his own choices. He didn't see the careful manipulation, the way she isolated him from potential friends, the gradual erosion of his judgment. He didn't understand that their physical relationship was built on a foundation of emotional manipulation and his desperate need for attention. He only saw someone who wanted him when his own parents seemed too busy to remember his name. The relationship became his escape from the beautiful prison of his family's success, not realizing he had walked into an even more dangerous trap. The text message arrived at 11 p.m., flight landed early. "See you at home, Dad." Chuck's blood turned to ice. He was at Adeora's, wrapped in silk sheets after another night of their inappropriate encounters, wine-drunk and disoriented. He rushed home, but it was too late. Emeka stood in the living room, still in his travel clothes, holding Chuck's expensive watch, the one Edeora had given him. Ngozi sat on the cream leather sofa, tears streaming down her face. "Where did this come from?" Emeka's voice was dangerously quiet. Chuck's mouth went dry. A friend." "What friend?" Ngozi's voice cracked. "You never mention any friends. We don't know anyone in your life anymore." The accusation hit like a physical blow because it was true. His parents had become strangers to him, and he to them. "The security footage," Emeka continued, his voice getting harder, "shows you coming and going from Mrs. Okafor's house at all hours. For months." Silence stretched like a chasm. "Son," Ngozi whispered, "please tell us this isn't what it looks like." But Chuck's face told them everything. What followed was an explosion of pain that had been building for years. "How could you be so foolish?" Emeka roared. "That woman is old enough to be your mother. She took advantage of you. Where were you?" Chuck shot back, years of abandonment pouring out. "When did you last ask about my life? When did you last care about anything except your precious business? Everything we do is for you. I never asked for any of this." Chuck's voice broke. "I asked for my parents. I asked to matter to someone. She gave me that. She exploited you," Ngozi sobbed. "And we? God help us, we left you vulnerable to it." The truth hung heavy in the room. They had all failed each other, but the ultimate responsibility lay with the adults who should have protected him. By morning, lawyers were involved. Edeora, faced with potential criminal charges and social ruin, made a calculated decision. She disappeared from Lagos, leaving behind her mansion and taking her secrets with her. Chike never saw her again. The scandal rocked their social circle. Whispers followed the family everywhere. Business associates distanced themselves. The golden boy image crumbled, revealing the broken family beneath. But something else happened too, something unexpected. For the first time in years, his parents stopped everything. No more business trips. No more meetings. No more excuses. They sat with their son in family therapy, facing the ugly truth of what their absence had caused and how it had left him vulnerable to predation. Healing didn't come overnight. Trust had to be rebuilt brick by brick, conversation by conversation. Emeka cut back his involvement in the business, choosing presence over profit. Ngozi started cooking again, filling their massive kitchen with the aromas of love that had been missing for too long. They moved out of the mansion, choosing a smaller home in Lekki where they could be a family again instead of strangers sharing an address. Chike struggled with complex trauma from months of systematic abuse disguised as affection. He battled shame over how completely he'd been manipulated, anger at his own inability to recognize the predatory patterns, and the confusing reality that his abuser had made him feel wanted during the loneliest period of his life. The therapy sessions were brutal. Learning to understand how Edeora had systematically identified his vulnerabilities, exploited his emotional needs, isolated him from healthy relationships, and used sexual encounters to create psychological dependence was a painful process. She was a predator, his therapist explained. She studied your weaknesses like a hunter studies prey. The gifts, the attention, the sexual experiences, they were all tools designed to exploit your emotional vulnerabilities and maintain control over you. Gradually, with intensive therapy and his parents' renewed presence, Chike began to understand the difference between genuine care and predatory manipulation, between healthy relationships built on mutual respect and exploitative situations where one person systematically uses another for gratification while causing profound psychological harm. 2 years later, Chike sat across from his father at their new dining table, not marble and gold, but warm wood that bore the marks of real family meals. I should have seen it, Emeka said quietly. Should have seen what leaving you alone was costing us all. Should have seen how vulnerable we made you. We both made mistakes, Dad. Mine were bigger. I'm your father. The responsibility was mine. When parents aren't present, predators see opportunity. Ngozi joined them, setting down a steaming pot of the jollof rice that had filled their old apartment with love. The money was supposed to give us freedom, she said. Instead, it put us all in prison, and left you exposed to someone who saw your loneliness as weakness to exploit. Chike nodded, understanding now what he couldn't see at 21, that predators hunt where parents aren't watching, that loneliness makes young people vulnerable in ways that money can never protect against, and that what he thought was a relationship was actually exploitation disguised as affection. The greatest wealth, his father said, is a child who knows they are loved and protected. Everything else is just decoration. As they shared their meal, really shared it, with conversation and laughter and presence, Chike realized they had found their way back to what mattered. The golden days weren't gone. They were just beginning again. For every parent watching this, your children don't need your money as much as they need your time. They don't need a mansion as much as they need your attention. They don't need success as much as they need your love and protection. Because when you're not there to protect them, someone else might be waiting to take advantage of their vulnerability. Someone who will see their loneliness not as something to heal, but as something to exploit. And that someone won't have their best interest at heart. Every parent who prioritizes work over presence should ask themselves, what would I be willing to sacrifice to get my child back if I lost them to someone with bad intentions? The answer to that question should guide every choice you make today. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any episodes, like, share, and turn on notifications for more emotional stories like this one. See you next time.